Hey everybody, welcome back. Oh, I get to say welcome back to A Little Bit Unhinged with Casey and Garrett. Casey's here.
Hey everyone.
And I'm here. I'm Garrett, by the way. And this is the only podcast in the world that you will gain infinite lives if you jump on our heads enough times. So you got that going for you. We had so many things in the previous episode that we remembered after we stopped talking about games that we wanted to talk about more, especially after viewing Casey's illustrious, and believe me when I tell you this, this is not just pulling your leg, it's illustrious collection.
It's a very humble collection.
It is, it's humble, but as I mentioned, it's well curated. Like Madden 93 box.
92.
So, excuse me, Madden 92 box in impeccable condition. Like, you don't understand. You don't see a Madden 92 box in the wild in impeccable condition amidst a Horizon Zero Dawn Lego set and Zelda Beautiful Things and a Metroid on a TV. Like, it's beautiful. Like, you guys legitimately do not know. But before we get into that, I've made a subset of questions. I'm going to call them shower thought questions that I think would be funny to ask you. Sometimes they're not funny. Like this one is less funny, but more, I think, interesting. At least in my brain, it's interesting. So we'll find out if that's true. But I was thinking about this because you and I watched a couple of episodes of X-Men 97. Mm-hmm. And I've watched one more since. And you are a patient and will-powered person. And so you're going to wait to where you can watch them all, which I respect the heck out of.
Yeah.
But this is my elliptical viewing, so I got to watch them. But I was thinking about Professor X's powers. And specifically, I was wondering, this applies to you specifically and more about the nature of people in general. Do you think if you had the ability to read people's minds and like turn their brains off, do you think you'd ever use that?
So this is something I've actually thought about before.
Of course it is.
The times when I would actually use it is in the car if somebody cuts me off because I just want to scream, "You're a fucking jackass." Yeah.
I am the most all of the bad words a person can be in the car.
Yeah.
Like I'm the most all of the things in the car. Do you think let's just say, and obviously it's difficult to go to the whole population, but do you think there would be a reasonable group of people that wouldn't snuff somebody's brain out if they got that? Like, I'm thinking about, like, the whole population of the Earth, and I'm thinking that most people would probably kill somebody if they had the ability to do it and nobody would know.
I feel like most people would not do that.
Okay.
I feel like there's a very large percentage that would.
Okay.
For sure.
Do you think that more people wouldn't than would?
I think that most people lean towards good.
Okay.
Because snuffing somebody out, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I think there's a moral quandary there that I don't think a lot of people would cross that line given the choice.
Do you think that people... I think what I really think is I think that somebody would do it until they realized how big of a deal it was, and then they wouldn't after that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if somebody recognizes that they have that ability, they're going to face the, do I actually want to do that?
Right in the face of it.
But if it's a situation where they don't see the humanity in the person, then yeah, I could see somebody just going and flipping switches. And
like, I thought about that faced with the quandary of, like, it's a really bad person. And, like, the whole... Because they talk about that in, like, even X-Men stuff all the time. It's like, well, you can't just kill somebody just because they're bad. You know, or Batman deals with it with the Justice League or whatever. It's just like, you can't be as bad as them, right? You have to put yourself on a higher standard than that. I think that's the thing I would struggle with. Mm-hmm. Like, when you got to a point where it's like, yeah, but this person is bad. Like, this is a bad person. Yeah. Like, what is the cross-reference of that power? But I just wondered what people would think about the general population. I think people are good in general, but I think I think that we have a subset of barriers that make it easy for people to be, and I just wonder if they will be if those barriers didn't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like most people are inherently selfish.
Yes.
So everybody's going to do what's ever in their best interest.
Right.
But I don't think that they necessarily go out and seek out the evil deeds.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's the better way to look at people too, which I like. I'm pro that. Okay, great. Now we got to the deep stuff. But that was the first one on my brain, and I really wanted to have that conversation with you because I really wondered what your perspective was on it. Now let's get to the important continuation of our conversation from before, because we've now had a chance to look at some other things, like Crazy Taxi came up, and I was like, how amazing was Crazy Taxi?
Great game.
Gosh, so good.
Yeah.
So good, Crazy Taxi. Like, I think somebody re-released a game that's like it. I don't know if it would feel as exciting now, but at the time,
yeah, I mean, it was crazy.
Special.
I mean,
It was crazy.
lived up to its name.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I don't know that anything can hit that level again the way that one did.
I agree.
And then we talked about N64 last time. Completely forgot about Star Fox.
Star Fox, man.
And Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie. We didn't talk about Donkey Kong Country, even though we had talked about Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that one.
Yeah. We also brought up, when we were having the conversation, A Hat in Time, which my contemporary, which isn't N64 specifically, but just a great game that we didn't talk about, for whatever reason, that was in a window that I didn't play it until much later. Because what was it? It was a middle 2000s-y game? Does that sound right?
Which, Hat in Time?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, because I just played it last year for the first time.
Oh, maybe it's newer than I think it was.
I don't think so. I think it was several years old when I got it, because a friend of mine got me some games for Christmas and ended up going into GameStop and finding a really good deal on a PS4 copy of A Hat in Time, and he knew that I had never played it. And I loved it. It was a great game.
Brilliant game. The speed runs on that, chef's kiss. So,
I haven't seen any of the speed runs.
yeah.
I bet they're out of...
They're really good. Like,
probably
even
crazy.
Like, obviously there's super crazy glitch ones, but even like the non-glitch ones that are just like people really breaking it down, really good.
Yeah.
Really good game. I had mentioned this to you when we were talking about this before, that you're not as much into as Crash Bandicoot, which Crash Bandicoot was killer PS2.
Yeah, I think it's PS2.
Killer PS2 game, just absolutely killer. And most of the spin-offs of it, like Crash Team Racing, we played the hell out of Crash Team Racing. I like kart games. We talked about Diddy Kong Racing and Sonic Racing was really good. And any kart weird one where you turn into an airplane and then you go into a boat, whatever. Great. Love that stuff.
Those are always fun.
So good. What else did we... Oh, rail shooters.
Yes. Like a whole genre. One that I love more than anything else, and I completely forgot about them last time. Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles is one of my favorite games ever. Played the heck out of that.
Yes. But on top of rail shooters, I also like shoot 'em ups, like side-scrolling and north-south space shoot, like bullet hell games. Like Cuphead, which we didn't talk about, is one of my favorite games that's ever existed. It's just the greatest piece of gaming art. I might think it's the best piece of gaming art that's ever been made. Like true, like taking the entire feel of a whole animation era and translating to video games with the music and the animation style and the graphic style. I just think it's brilliant. It's one of my favorite, even though I'll never beat it because it's too hard.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
The difficulty of that game is
really difficult.
Out of this world.
It's really difficult. And it's a difficulty for the most part that is a satisfying one, because when you finally beat the boss, everything comes together. Like as you go through each of the stages and you figure out the different ways to defeat each of because most of these bosses have like 3 different changes that they make. Like you beat the first part and then they get bigger and then they do a different attack and then they do a different attack. And you have to master the first one because you got to do it so many times to get to the second one. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you get to the point you get ahead of yourself. You're like, oh, I'm going to get to the third one. And then you kind of go back and you got to do the first one. But then when it all comes together, it's super satisfying, but it's a marathon to get to there.
Yeah.
Like it's a challenge, but it's beautiful. The music is beautiful. I think it's just an outstanding 5-star game. One of just, I think, the outstanding creations in gaming is Cuphead. And there's so many other of them that I didn't play a lot of, like Tunic. Mm-hmm. It was also a little bit on the difficult side, but another beautiful game, well told. The whole mechanic of Tunic, if you haven't played it at home, is that kind of it's based around the old video game manual. And so it's in a language that you can't see and pages are missing. And as you beat the game more, you get to see more of the manual. And it tells you how to do special moves that you may not have known how to do. And it shows you some of the map and it breaks it down for you. And it's also beautiful and a great storytelling game, but it's hard. It's too hard for me, but I love watching somebody play it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those games like Cuphead. I know that I would be too frustrated. I'm never even going to give it a shot. So I'll just watch somebody stream. And that's how I feel with so many games, like Souls-like games.
Yeah, Souls-likes. Yeah.
Just can't. I don't want to put in the time to figure out how to do this.
I really want, like, I see Elden Ring and I'm like, oh, I should try it, but I know better. I just like, no, I'm just going to get frustrated and have to give up on it.
Yeah, because I played Bloodborne for the first, I don't know, for a little bit. And I did okay, but you die and then you have to redo it. And then you die and you have to redo it. And then you can see somebody do it and you're like, oh, well, shoot, that looks so easy. Yeah. But figuring it out, no, don't want to do it.
So tough, man. And considering the trouble I have with Ocarina of Time, like, forget about it.
Did you know that there are yellow arrows on the floor?
You know what, Navi?
It's all twisted.
Like, I was talking to somebody else about the game because I was telling them about this experience and specifically mentioning how, like, and they were like, yeah, no, Navi sucks.
She's so good at being so useless.
Yes, like they went out of their way to make her useful at being useless.
Yeah, because there's so many times where if you want help, if you want guidance, she will not tell you a damn thing.
No.
But then there's other times where you don't need help. You're just walking around and she's like, did you notice that there's yellow arrows on the floor?
Like, come on, man. Come on. The one thing I did notice was yellow arrows on the floor. So I will say this. There's been some times when I've done the Soraya song.
I always say Saria.
So, look, you know how I pronounce things like Volvagia. So I'm going to be wrong. But you can not talk to her and then talk to Navi. And there's been a few times where Navi's pointed me in the right direction. So I'll say, okay, thank you for the assistance there. More than Saria has ever. So she gets points for that, but it's like 2 times. And I wonder how much time I have on that game. Does it tell you in the game anywhere?
Maybe since you're playing on Switch.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think
internally in the game it probably doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think that mine's ever tracked it.
Save might tell you how long you've played.
Yeah, I don't think any of mine ever told me how long I put into the game, but
what else? Did we miss anything from your grand collection?
No, I think we captured the ones that we fighting games.
Oh, yes.
We did want to talk about fighting games too.
Yes. Because obviously we have to talk about the most important one for us is Soul Calibur 2. Mm-hmm. Because both of our favorite weapons come from there.
That's right.
Which is crazy, first off.
Yeah, that was just a random, we first became friends and started talking about different questions for each other. And I said, what's your favorite sword from a video game?
Yes.
And your answer was Soul Edge.
Yeah. Which
blew my mind because mine has always been Soul Calibur.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not like, oh, this is going to be some weird answer. It's just, it really is. I just love the big evil sword. It has so much personality, and the eyeball, and the fact that Nightmare is tied to it, and the story around it. Fantastic. But I would have assumed without knowing that it was going to be Zelda, like it was going to be Link based. It was going to be one of those from you. Like I just assumed.
I think most people would assume I would pick the Master Sword or, Bigoron Sword or something. But no, I've always been a huge fan of Soul Calibur 2. I have the strategy guide from way back in the day that my parents bought me.
You have all 3 versions.
I have all 3 versions of the game.
It's just incredible.
Xbox, PlayStation, and GameCube. And
I think the first things that my friends knew about you from me was that. Maybe. That might have been the first thing I told them is like, no, guys, listen. She has all 3 versions.
Yep. I just love it. It was such a great game.
Such a great game.
And the sword, so that sword, the reason that I picked it over the Master Sword is it's just so beautiful and so elegant looking, especially the Soul Calibur 2 version of it.
Which is the best one.
Truly, yeah.
Yeah, it's elegant and ornate and both delicate, but also obviously very powerful just in the way that its design is. It's fantastic. It is a perfect counterbalance to the brooding anger of Soul Edge.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then what is I could not find. Did they name the combined sword? Is there this combined sword when they make them both together? Is it just Soul Calibur as well?
Yeah, and I actually tried to think about that earlier today too. I think that it is still just called Soul Calibur.
Okay, I think that's right. Yeah, I think the combined sword is Soul Calibur. It's not as cool as it should be considering.
I don't know. I think that they do a very good job of combining the elements of both. You still have the eye, but you still have the delicate nature. It looks a little bit too much like the mobs from Final Fantasy that I can't remember the name of. The little flying dudes. Oh, that's going to drive me crazy that I can't remember their name.
Yes, you're right. It does look like that. Let's see, which game had, does Soul Calibur 2 have one of those?
Yeah, that's on the cover of the guide too.
Yeah. Come to me, internet. All right, let's see it. Oh yeah, you know what? It actually, I think the thing that I didn't love about it is it still looks a little too evil.
Oh well, it is. I think the storyline is that it corrupts them, right?
Yeah.
Corrupts Calibur with Edge or something. See, now we're reaching back because it's been so long since I've actually played.
Sure. Yeah, I don't remember when I actually played Soul Calibur 2. Now I need to go back and play it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I loved that game.
Yeah,
and I loved
too.
playing all the different characters because it also gave you a story with all of them.
All of them got a story. And like the special guest character, like all of them got pulled into a portal somehow. Mm-hmm. And they had they found a nemesis in their journey. And so let's see. Link was the GameCube one. Mm-hmm. And Darth was the PS
Heihachi.
Oh, Heihachi, that's right. Heihachi was the PlayStation one. And Darth Vader was the
no, it was Spawn.
Oh, it was Spawn. Which one did have Yoda and which one had Yoda and Darth Vader?
That might have been a later version.
Okay.
Like Soul Calibur 3 or 4 or something.
Maybe it was 3. Maybe it was Soul Calibur 3 that had Yoda and Vader and Kratos. Yeah, that sounds right. Soul Calibur 3 had Yoda, Vader, Kratos. Fighting games usually understand, when they can pull it off, how special guest characters are. Mm-hmm. Like if you can figure out how to make, like obviously the Smash series, Smash Ultimate's like, here's all of the guest characters. Here's Solid Snake and Sora and Kazuya and...
Yeah, but it was also it has a unique situation where it's all of these different characters coming together anyway, so you can bring in anybody and just make it work.
That's true.
Whereas something like Soul Calibur,
it had to work.
You really have to.
Yeah, you had to make it work. Yeah, they needed some kind of connect, and most now that I'm thinking about this in real time. Most of the major sword wielding video game characters have some kind of, I won't say tragic backstory, but have some kind of like big epic backstory. Like for whatever reason, the frog guy in Chrono Trigger comes to my mind.
Oh, he was sad, I think.
Yeah. And the Masamune and the like a lot of your major sword wielding characters, like let's say Cloud, like have the kind of story that you can bring into this epic duel of good and bad, and like, but I say all that, but like the ones that they pull in for Smash, like Marth and like the Fire Emblem characters, have a little less of that. Mm-hmm. Which might not be fair because maybe I'm just not as familiar with them, but I just know from looking into them from those games, like Shulk in them, it's like, okay, those are some dudes with swords. But like the Soul Calibur series, nobody was just a dude with a sword.
Yeah.
Like everybody had stakes. Spawn is Spawn the only character to be in Soul Calibur and Mortal Kombat?
Possibly. Now you're making me question my own game that I own.
Soul Calibur did like the first real ones. Like I can't think of very many other ones that wasn't Soul Calibur 2. Like that's why Soul Calibur 2 was a big deal, because they were console exclusives as well as.
Yeah, it was the first one that I know of that did the console exclusive special characters.
Yeah. I don't think anybody else did one.
I'm trying to think if there were. Surely there were special characters before that, though.
There probably was. I know Yoshimitsu showed up in random places from Tekken. Hi.
Our mascot wants attention.
I know our mascot wants to talk on the podcast. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, fighting game. So besides Soul Calibur 2, what other ones did you like? Did you have other ones that you enjoyed?
Fighting games?
Yeah.
Killer Instinct Gold.
Oh, Killer Instinct. Yes. Killer Instinct Gold. Great.
Yeah.
Such a good arcade game, too.
So Killer Instinct is my favorite out of all the fighting games, I think. Just barely squeaks ahead of Soul Calibur 2. And then I've always loved Tekken. And Mortal Kombat, but I have grown out of Mortal Kombat in the last few years, I would say. But I do want to eventually get the new one, just because it's a new game.
Yeah. The new Tekken. I've been playing the new Tekken.
How
Tekken
is
8.
it?
It's great. It's really good.
So I'm also going to get that at some point.
Oh, it's really good. I really enjoyed it. The single player mode is like this experience where you make a little avatar and then you play in arcades and you're trying to build your way up through the arcades, become like the grand champion. And so you have like this little fighting game community that travels with you, and you beat their characters, and then you go to other people's arcades and you face their characters. And they all have different special styles, and because there's so much customization, it's just like all of our characters are in swimsuits. So you have the swimsuit gang, and you have the whatever, and you work your way up to the Tekken Grandmaster, and you fight in the Tekken World Tournament, and you just customize your little avatar, with a little backpack and cute little hat and glasses, and then you can customize your character that you're playing as well. It's really fun. It was really fun. Like I played it through like one night. It was like 4 hours. I played it all the way through, because it was so much fun. And you can still go back and like unlock more stuff, unlock costumes and stuff, playing through it. And then they have the main story mode as well, which is insane because it's a Tekken story. So, like the first battle is Devil Jin versus Devil Kazuya, and they like destroy a building, and they. Like, that's the first battle in the story mode.
Oh,
is
wow.
like a laser from space blows out New York City. Like, that's how they start. So they're just off the wall the whole time. And then each character has their own single-player story mode, too, where they have their own ending. And then you can also play, obviously, online and stuff. But it was really well done. And they have it to where you can play with all the buttons, or they have, like, a little easier mode to play where it's like, hit these buttons to do combos and hit these buttons to do different mix-ups and stuff, to where you don't have to know all the combos. Mm-hmm. And so when you're playing all the little individual character modes, it's just like, I just want to play this character. I don't want to have to learn how to do everything. So you can just turn that mode on with a button and then just just kick ass for a while and then move to another character. So
that's pretty cool.
It's really cool. They did a really good job.
It's a really nice feature to have.
Yeah, they did it. They did it with Street Fighter 6 as well. Street Fighter 6 also does a good job with it. But Street Fighter 6 is not as technical as Tekken. Like Tekken every character has a huge move list with a bunch of combos and a bunch of throws. And so this really shortens that down quite a bit. It makes it easier to pick somebody up and play and get an idea of what they're like. It's really good. It's been so fun because it's just been like, I don't have to be afraid to be like, oh, I don't want to play the story mode with this character because their move list is going to be so hard. So I don't have to care.
Yeah.
Just play it, push buttons, and go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
really
you enjoy
nice.
it when you go to it. And the graphics are great. Like I have it on my PC and my laptop, and they really made it very player friendly. Except here's a funny thing that you might appreciate. For whatever reason, they made it so you can only exit the game by going to the main menu and then going into the options screen and then going down to exit game. And everybody's like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Why would you make us do all that? So they patched in the most recent patch to where you can exit from the main menu without having to do all that.
That's so odd.
It was a really weird design decision. Like I feel like that was like an executive was like, no, make it hard as possible for them to leave. Like make sure that they see the in-game purchases or whatever before.
But why would anybody think to? Okay, yeah.
It's weird, super weird. I don't get it. But it's great. The game is great, made with a lot of love. One of the characters owns a coffee farm, and so her whole character trait is she's likes coffee. Like her big finishing move, she talks about coffee. Her ending, she does like a commercial for coffee where she holds up a coffee mug and you don't even know where the coffee mug came from because she was just in a fight. Like a hot coffee mug. And she's like, my coffee is the best coffee. It's nuts. It's absolutely off the wall.
It's cool.
It's brilliant. So, all right. I think, did we cover everything? Oh, I have one other game that's very important for me to talk about that I am frustrated I didn't talk about, and that's River City Ransom. Did you ever play River City Ransom?
No.
River City Ransom is an all-time banger because it was one of the first ever side-scrolling beat-em-ups that was like an RPG. So as you fought, you were like high school. You're fighting other high schools. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to get to the end of a level and then fight a boss. But as you beat these guys up, they'd drop coin. And then when you went to the towns in between, you could buy stuff. So sometimes you could just buy food and it would just up your health. But you could also buy specific food that would boost your stats, like your punching power, your kicking power. And then you could also go to buy these special books that gave you like the best one was called Acro Circus, where instead of doing like a running punch, you roll up at a ball and do like a flying ball attack. Or there's one called Stone Hands, where you hold down the punch button and they would just do rapid punches. You'd have to see it to get the feel of it, but like I think a lot of the people that know me in my friend group that play games, we all have a very, very fond memory of River City Ransom. That's one we might have to play. That's one that might have to be on the list because it is like, and I mean, it was NES, so you probably didn't know words when it came out. You were probably pre-word when the NES happened.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But I did, growing up, have all of those games because my dad played video games. So most of my collection now is actually stuff that he had bought. Yeah. And then I basically took from him when I moved out. Great.
That's the way it should work. Yeah, you should get the in-house upgrade.
But I have heard about River City Ransom and heard good things. I've heard it's great, but just never played it myself.
Yeah, River City Ransom is like, and they made like it's part of, I think it's called Kunio is the character model type, and so there's a bunch of Kunio games from Japan. Like the NES has Super Dodgeball, and it's those character types as well. Super World Cup Soccer on like the Game Boy uses those Kunio style characters. So they're all over the place. River City Ransom was the fighting game version of that. They still I bought like for $4 on the PlayStation Store. They did it's like gym combat, and it's those Kunio styles, and you just pick a team and then you fight others on like a rooftop of a school, and you have different weapons and you knock them off and stuff. Like they just do them all over the place, and they're super cute. That little squant little style. But the Kunio style games are pretty fun. But River City Ransom was the core. It was like an advanced Double Dragon, which is weird to say because Double Dragon was pretty advanced, but still an advanced Double Dragon is kind of what it was. So yeah, that's the one that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about. Actually, there's a million other ones that I'm going to think of. Like that reminds me of Super Volleyball. Like all of the extreme sports games, like California games on the NES, where you did like the hacky sack and you did surfboarding, and like those games are always so cool because I never got to do any of that stuff. So it's like I surfed in a game. Woo!
It's just like real life.
It was listen, just like the Adventures of Bayou Billy. It was just like real life. All right, I think we did a great job. We could really look. You're going to get a lot more of this because I think we can talk about games. We're going to have to give ourselves a real agenda when we go to talk about games more later.
Yes.
Because I'm like, let's talk about arcade beat 'em ups like Turtles in Time. Well, we can't even go there right now. There's so much like just talking about arcade games by itself. Did you get a chance? Did you do a lot of arcade playing?
I mean, just DDR.
Oh, DDR.
Time Crisis, I think.
Time Crisis was so good. Oh, man.
Trying to think about what else. Well, and House of the Dead, because,
House of the Dead.
Rail shooters.
Yes. House of the Dead. Yeah, we did a lot of, like the Aerosmith shooting game. Did you ever play the Aerosmith? I can't remember what it was called.
I don't think so.
Oh, man, it was wild. Anyway, I was just getting ready to get off on a tangent about how we didn't need to get off on a tangent. So we will save these for later. But our next episode will probably not be game-based, probably. But I don't make any promises because we might want to talk about more games because who knows what the heck's going to happen from now till then.
Yeah, I think our goal is every other episode will be video games, and then the next one will be either some other nerdy type thing,
some
either movies
thing.
or music, TV, whatever.
Yep. Some other world culture thing we'll do. But games was the biggest, I think, thing that kind of bonded us. So
it's what we can talk about forever.
We could talk about it forever.
We didn't even talk about MMOs.
We haven't even talked about World of Warcraft. We can't start. We have to just make that an episode.
We even looked at Diablo 4
I was
I mean, not MMO, but, we looked at Diablo 4.
Just going to say, we could just talk about Blizzard probably by itself for too long. So we'll get to that, but we'll try not to just talk about games all the time because there are other things that we want to talk about as well as we go about this journey. But for now, enjoy all of the games. And I know all of you because we talked to all of you about games too. Please tell me a game that I didn't talk about that I should have talked about.
Yeah, give him all the shit.
Yeah, please. Just when you go, I cannot believe you didn't talk about.
How dare you talk about Bayou Billy?
Yeah, how dare you bring up Bayou Billy?
And then forget Kid Chameleon.
That's right. How dare you talk about Bayou Billy and not talk about Alex Kidd in the Wonder Castle or whatever it was called, or whatever. We'll get there. Like I didn't even talk about Discs of Tron. See, I could do this all day. So we won't. But stick with us. You'll hear about more games all the time and other stuff. And thank you for listening.